Hello, and welcome to the Compassionate Accountability Podcast. I'm Nate Regier, and this is where we explore what it really means to lead with both compassion and accountability without separating the two through the real journeys of leaders who have lived it. If you're navigating people, pressure, or responsibility, you're in the right place. My guest on this episode is Erin McDaniel, the Director of Communications for the City of Newton, Kansas. For 20 years, Erin has overseen the city's communication activities, including media relations, website, and interacting with the community as the official spokesperson for the city. For the last 10 years, Erin and the City of Newton have been applying compassionate accountability to address thorny communication challenges, improve their culture, address political divisiveness, form a strong collaborative relationship with the City Council, and build trust with the community. Erin, welcome to the Compassionate Accountability Podcast. I'm so glad you're with us today.
Thank you. It's really nice to be here.
So to get started, tell us who you are and what you do for your job.
Yeah, I am the communications director for the City of Newton, Kansas. And we are kind of a small city in the middle of Kansas. And as the communications director, I am in charge of all of the public information, communications, and marketing activities of our local government.
I was looking at your a little bit on LinkedIn at the description of what you do, and it's like, wow, you have your hand and oversee everything, lots of things, from social media to being the spokesperson for the city. So you probably have a lot of communication related and people related issues you deal with every day. So I want to start by asking you, what is one people related challenge that you face at work that maybe most folks don't realize or appreciate?
I can tell you when I first started at the city, what was surprising to me, and it sounds a little bit quaint now in the world that we're living in, but it really surprised me how often I was distrusted or even disliked based solely on the fact that I work for the local government. There's
Wow.
a barrier a lot of people have of distrust of government and the people who work for government, which was sad for me, and it was something I had to really get used to.
Well, and that had nothing to do with you. They didn't know you as a person, had no history with you just because you worked for government.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. I know that for quite some time, you and the city of Newton have been on a journey to improve the quality of your culture, how you communicate with the city and with the community, and build that relationship. When you think back to before you were on this journey, what was the situation and some of the challenges you were facing?
Yeah, we first um, met in 2015, and we at the city, the leadership team, contracted with Next Element because we were having a lot of conflict between the elected officials. Here in Newton, we call it the city commission, and the city staff. That's something another thing that a lot of people probably don't think about is that there is sometimes a healthy or unhealthy tension between the elected officials and the staff. And at that time, we had elected a couple of commissioners who were overtly antagonistic toward the staff. And so it was a real challenge for the staff to know how to navigate that relationship. Um, we inherently have to work together to get things done for the community. And so we really wanted to explore some new tools to be able to navigate that relationship and communicate better.
Yeah, well, I bet those who are listening to this can relate. I'm sure that's a challenge in every municipality. At least we hear that quite a lot when we're dealing with other government entities. And I remember, there's so many different staff in the city that have to interact with the community and with the city council. And so if those relationships are strained, it can really be tough on them because they might not be in a public facing role. They might not have a lot of experience dealing with that.
Yeah, absolutely. The tension trickles down throughout the organization. And
yeah.
so even our employees who had no contact really with the elected officials could feel that.
Yeah. Where did conflict or this drama show up the most, and how did it affect your people?
Well, I think um, there was blame to go around on both sides of the equation. From the elected officials' side, they came in, like I said, with this strong distrust of government in general. They assumed negative intentions by the city staff. Any kind of mistake or misstep was immediately seen as some kind of fraud or waste or corruption. And then I think on the city staff side, knowing some of the public statements that these commissioners had made, there was distrust there as well, and a sense that we are the experts and we know better, and these commissioners don't know as much as we do as the subject matter experts, and so they will never be able to know as much as us, and there was a lack of value of their contributions.
That must have been really hard where the default assumption is you're crooked, you're incompetent, you're trying to cheat the system, we can't trust you. And you know you're working your butt off.
Absolutely. Yeah, really
Wow.
frustrating. And people took it personally,
Yeah.
and it became emotional for a lot of people.
So what happened to shift your perspective? Why did you end up deciding to do something about it?
Well, I think we were at a point where we realized that if we didn't do something about it, people's jobs could be on the line, um, and it could be really negative for our community.
Well, and I suppose you could have easily felt like a victim, like we didn't elect these officials, we can't change their minds, there's nothing we can do. And that I think a lot of people can relate to that. Like, well, what are we supposed to do if they've already decided we're bad? But
Yeah.
you decided to kind of take things into your own hands. So what happened? What did you do?
Well, we contracted with Next Element. We brought in our entire leadership team. It was about 12 people. Um, and we had a pretty intense training using your tools, and I think opened up our eyes to seeing these people from a different light, understanding where they were coming from, um, trying to be more open about our intentions and motivations, understanding the different types of people and why they might behave in certain ways. Empathy was a big part of it.
Man, it's hard to have empathy for people that have decided that you're bad. And I'm reminded of the quote we share a lot, and we probably talked about this quote is um, Wayne Dyer is famous for saying, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Did you have a shift where you started looking at the situation differently?
Well, I know we changed the way that we tried to communicate with them, um, understanding that communicating with all of them the same way didn't necessarily work. There were certain of the five elected commissioners who were very different from the others and maybe required a different approach.
I know one of the things we talked about a lot was, different people need different styles of communication, different ways of addressing, and different people need to be approached in a certain way to be open or to start trusting. And you build trust in lots of different ways. Were there some things you did differently that start where you started to see those bridges get built, or you started to experience trust because you were changing the way you approach things?
We definitely saw small wins along the way. Um, we would have certain projects or initiatives that we tried to communicate in a different way to certain commissioners that better fit their preferences. And we definitely saw a difference in the responses that we got.
So over these years, as you've been applying these tools, and it wasn't just a one-time event. This has been really a dedicated effort over the last decade that you've been trying to build these tools in, use them in your strategies. How do you use some of these tools on a daily basis in your job now? How does it help you do your job?
I would say that these tools have just changed the way I think. Um, I don't always notice the difference, but I'm not necessarily consciously doing things differently, but like you said, this has been a long journey, and so I've kind of absorbed it. Um, but I think the one of the biggest things for me is the idea of starting with openness, and that has made a huge difference, not only within our organization, within our co-working groups or with the city commission, but also with the public. And, if I get messages from a citizen who's had a bad experience and I can right away relate to them and build a bridge of connection, that can really help diffuse the situation. A lot of times people just want to be heard and feel like someone cares about what their concern is. I can't necessarily always fix their problem, but if I can help them feel heard and make that connection, it helps a lot.
Wow, you've touched on something that is such a big, important part of compassionate accountability, which is that we treat people as valuable, capable, and responsible in every interaction. And I know you weren't being treated that way as a city when this all started, but you made the choice. We can turn on those switches. We can choose to treat people as valuable, capable, and responsible. And it starts by just meeting people where they are and honoring their lived experience. And I'm sure citizens, um, city council members, they come and they might be completely whacked. They might not really understand what's going on. Maybe they haven't done their homework. Maybe they're jumping to conclusions. But the point is, you meet them where they're feeling and you start there, building a common connection. How does that change the outcome?
Oh, it makes a huge difference. You can almost see it when you're talking to someone and their defenses just come down. And that's when you can maybe get to that resourcefulness piece and start helping them with problem solving. But first, you got to take the heat out of it because
Yeah.
a lot of times people come at you pretty emotional.
Yeah, and we talk about how compassion means to struggle with, that we're in this together. And I'm sure from your perspective as a public service entity, you're here to serve the community, but it's a joint effort. We all have to do our part. But yet when we get into distress, we expect the other person's at fault. They have to do everything to fix it. And so it sounds like when you meet people where they are, then you can really move into collaborative problem solving where we can take shared ownership for the solution. And we both are contributing citizens in this community.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. So I understand that recently you won an award, and I know you don't like to brag about yourself. You're a very humble person, but what award did you win? And tell us about it.
I received the Kansas Communicator of the Year award from the Kansas Association of Public Information Officers. It's my state association of government communicators, and it was really nice to be acknowledged by them. Yeah,
Wow. Sounds like they recognize some of the things you've been describing and the impact that you're making.
I hope so. Yes, I think that's the key. You know, it's a very hard field. Um, and it gets harder all the time, I think, with how polarized our political environment here is
Yeah.
now. And social media is such a challenging landscape to operate in. And
Yeah.
so for my peers who understand that dynamic, to honor me, it's really touching.
Oh, that's really neat. So I guess by recognizing this award, they must believe that you have learned some things and you're doing some things right. So I'm curious, this whole journey you've been on, um, 10 years since you started working with our tools, but much longer, what, 20 years that you've been in this role?
Yeah.
Um, what is a lesson or two? What has this journey taught you about leadership?
Um, I become more convinced all the time that leadership is all about authenticity and that human connection. And I've seen many leaders over the years experience a lot of difficult situations when they don't allow themselves to be vulnerable with their people. They adhere to that sort of old school philosophy of the leader being the boss and having all the answers. And I think it doesn't work anymore. Maybe it never did.
Mm.
But but nowadays I think people want openness. They want authentic connection with their leaders, and they need to know that you as a leader have struggles just like they do.
Wow, that's a message we hear so much. And it's so great to hear you saying it, but also experiencing that it works. And one of the lessons, it sounds like one of the things you learned is that starting it open makes a huge difference. Is there
Mhm.
anything else you've learned about conflict communication in this polarized, tension-filled, volatile environment that we live in?
I think I've learned to check myself and ask myself, how am I contributing to this conflict? Am I adding drama to this? Are there assumptions that I'm making? Um, Obviously, I can only control myself and my reactions in a conflict. And so that's been really helpful to me to build that self-awareness. I think only then can you try to bring more compassion into interactions with the public or with coworkers, is
Yeah.
if you understand what you might be contributing negatively.
Well, that takes a high level of self-awareness and self-management, and also got to put your ego on the back burner to be able to say how I show up makes a huge difference in how things go.
Yeah.
Aaron Chappell Deckert, one of the members of our team, you might remember he wrote this on the bathroom wall in our old office, and he said, "What's coming at you is probably coming out of you." And I thought, isn't that
Mm,
interesting? If we could step back and say, well, maybe I could change the way I show up, the energy I put out to the world. And I can't control other people, but it sounds like when you're applying these compassion accountability principles, you're seeing different energy come back at you.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think ego ruins a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the first step is setting that ego aside.
Well, I can imagine there might be people listening in positions like yours that are maybe dealing with what you were dealing with and struggling because these are real troubles. What advice would you have for a leader in your position dealing with what you were dealing with before?
Um, I think it would be just that, to set your ego aside. You know, in our initial conflict that we came to you with in 2015, um, not all of us came out of that conflict with our jobs intact. And I think some of the issue was ego, and people weren't willing to give a little. Um, People dug in their heels, and I think in the long term, we came out great. People landed where they should have landed, but in the moment, there was a lot of drama, and it did not feel good. And so I would just encourage people to be real, admit what you're feeling, um, be a human. You're not a leadership robot, and it's okay to give a little and try to understand where the other folks are coming from. You're not trying to win.
Mm.
Um,
Well, that's huge because
yeah,
when we talk about compassion is struggling with people, the opposite is drama, which is struggling against, where everything is a win-lose scenario and everybody
right.
loses.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
Very sage advice. Thank you. So really appreciate you sharing your journey, where you've come, how you're using these tools. And again, congratulations on that award. What is one truth about conflict that you've learned?
Um, Conflict is a test of your organizational health, because it's very easy to say we all get along great and we're such a great team when things are going well and when you're agreeing on everything.
Mm,
But when that conflict comes up, that's the test. Do you really have it all together? Um, it's where the rubber hits the road.
wow. Okay. What is one thing leaders forget about trust or you think they should know?
Um, if you expect people to trust you, they have to know you. And so you have to open yourself up a little bit.
Wow. That is so powerful. Stephen Covey shared with me in a previous episode. He said companies are filled with trustworthy people that don't trust each other because they don't open up and they don't take the first step to
Yeah.
be vulnerable and to show you who they are. What amazing, amazing advice. What is one shift that changed everything for you?
Um, I think that I don't have to have all the answers. I
Wow.
like to have all the answers.
Mm.
That's my, I'm much more comfortable.
Well, we've known each other for a long time, and I know how important that is what you said. I know exactly what you mean. I can relate. So, what is looking back on your journey? What is one thing you do differently next time?
I think I would push my team a little bit more to be more open, um, to relate more as people, to be more open. Sometimes it's hard when you're not the boss to do that pushing, but uh, sometimes even the boss needs a push.
Mm, yeah. Well, reading between the lines, I have gathered that this journey is not an easy one. It's hard. It takes putting your ego on the side. Sometimes some of us don't make it on the journey because maybe we aren't willing to make the changes inside. And so culture change, transformation, this journey is hard and it takes concerted effort, but the rewards are great. If people would like to get a hold of you, maybe they're curious, maybe they want to dig into a little bit to your history and get to know you. How could people reach out to you?
LinkedIn is a great platform for me. Also, or if you would want to send me an email at my city account, I'm on the City of Newton's website.
Awesome. Well, let's do a shout out to the city. Is there anything going on right now or anything about your city, your employer, your town that you would love that you are so proud of?
Yeah, Newton is a great place to live and work. It's our hometown, and it's a great family-friendly kind of small town, but not too small. It's a great place to live.
It is. And thanks in part to the work that you have done and being part of that. Erin, thank you so much for sharing your journey. Thank you for what you're doing in our community. Um, my wife and I raised our kids there. We lived there. We just moved after 27 years and we miss our town. It's a wonderful place. And we've seen this transformation that you're talking about. So thank you so much for being on the show, sharing your story. And again, congratulations on being the 2025 Kansas Communicator of the Year.
Thank you so much. It's been fun.
You've been listening to the Compassionate Accountability Podcast. I'm Nate Regier, and in this episode, we explored how a municipality transformed their reputation and trust in the community by meeting people where they are, putting their egos aside, and struggling with each other using compassionate accountability instead of struggling against each other with drama. If this episode resonated and you want to learn more about building a culture where compassion and accountability coexist, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen. You can also rate, review, and share the podcast to help us reach more listeners. And if you'd like to learn more about compassionate accountability or connect with us directly, visit us at next-element.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.